Hello and welcome to another edition of Jamaica Magazine. I'm your host, Adrian Atkinson. Coming up in our show, the pioneering history of the Overseas Examinations Commission and its impact on education across the globe. But first, let's take the news after the break.
Jamaicans, practice proper disposal of garbage, and if items can be reused, recycle them. We all have a part to play in protecting our environment from pollution. We are building Jamaica.
Good day, I'm Theodore Henry, and this is your JIS News for Tuesday, November 12, 2024. As the government prepares to undertake a massive road rehabilitation endeavor across the country through the SPARK program, it will be reviewing how roads are accounted for and administered. Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness made the announcement at the recent post-cabinet press briefing as rainfall and flooding conditions continue to affect the country's road network. Dr. Holness says there is a perception by the public that the government is responsible for all roads. But the fact, according to the Prime Minister, is that some roads are private and technically some community roads within housing schemes are still not handed over to the government, so they are not registered with the municipal corporations or the National Works Agency, NWA.
In other words, no entity owns them. And there are many communities that are plagued by the frustration of not being able to get any entity to respond to their roads. So how we administer the roads, that is under consideration now. Many years ago, there was a contemplation of a one road authority. There is no position on that right now, but just to alert the public that in terms of our long-term strategic intervention on roads, we will have to look at how roads are accounted for and how they are administered in order that we can properly budget for them.
Mr. Holness says a national audit of roads is now underway, and so far over 27,000 kilometers of roads are registered with the authorities. The Prime Minister insists that as development takes place, roads must be built to specified standards to ensure long-term durability. He says a directive will be given to the NWA to review existing standards to make provision for proper drainage, water mains, and movement of pedestrians, among other things.
It is building systems in place that will become institutions that will endure, that will solve the problem over the short, medium, and long term. So that we put that behind us. In the same way we have solved the fiscal issues, we're going to take the same strategic, instrumental approach to dealing with our roads.
Minister of National Security, Dr. Horace Chang, is calling for a more robust legislative framework to support urban planning in Jamaica. Dr. Chang asserts that a comprehensive legal framework to foster sustainable, prosperous communities is crucial in addressing potential challenges posed by unregulated development.
We have to look at what legislation fits Jamaica's situation today. It needs some thinking through, it needs some discussion with the planners, with the security forces, with all the stakeholders in society, the commercial individuals.
The minister was speaking at a World Town Planning Day event on Friday. It was held under the theme Unpacking the Urban Planning Nexus with Tourism and Sustainable Development. According to Dr. Chang, a modern, effective framework could assist with curbing unregulated developments, especially in areas where there is rapid urban and tourism expansion. Citing the ongoing construction of the Montego Bay Perimeter Road, the Security Minister warns that without proper planning, vacant lands along the route could face squatting issues within 5 years. He stresses that planners and policymakers must be proactive in acquiring and zoning these lands to prevent informal housing developments in the future.
I urge the planners to look at our environment, all the features that were raised by a good friend from tourism sector, our physical layout, our people's culture, the opportunities for development, which in today's I said larger services. How do we combine that to maintain what we call a Jamaican environment, but still creating the opportunities for employment, development, and quality evolution of tourism, along with other services, which are professional services.
Government Senator Cavan Gale is calling for the reintroduction of the revised Occupational Safety and Health Act, OSHA, in Parliament. The legislation, which is aimed at promoting and maintaining a safe and healthy working environment in Jamaica, was initially tabled in 2017. After thorough scrutiny by a joint select committee of Parliament, the bill underwent substantive amendments. Senator Gale, who was opening the 2024-2025 State of the Nation debate in the Upper House on Friday, asserts that the legislation is more than just a legal requirement.
The significance of this legislation cannot be overstated. It represents a modern, inclusive approach to occupational safety and health, ensuring that employers and employees work together to create safer, more productive workplaces. By mandating joint responsibility, sir, we promote a culture of shared accountability where both parties collaborate to reduce hazards, prevent workplace injuries, and protect lives.
He's also calling for the development of a national workplace health and wellness policy. This, he indicates, will not only complement the revised OSHA, but is also necessary to address the holistic well-being of the workforce. Clinical Coordinator for the Western Regional Health Authority, Dr. Delroy Frey, says the Cornwall Regional Hospital continues to deliver high-quality health services to approximately 60,000 patients annually. This in spite of rehabilitation work taking place on the main building.
Let's look at our outpatient, the number of outpatient that we have seen between January 1 and August 2024. And we did a comparison same time last year, 2023. So far, we have seen 58,335 patients between January 1, August 2024. Similar period, 2023, we saw 60,000. So that was a little more there, not much. Now, that's the outpatient service, patient who comes to our clinic by the conference center.
Dr. Delroy Frey was addressing a Montego Bay Chamber of Commerce and Industry Town Hall meeting recently. He adds that patient care in the accident and emergency department and ward admissions have increased so far this year compared to 2023, while almost 2,000 minor and major surgeries were done and over 8,000 patients received chemotherapy or radiotherapy for cancer. And finally, National Security Minister Dr. Horace Chang has condemned the shooting death of Sergeant Patrick Mahoney of the St. Catherine North Police Division. Minister Chang says Sergeant Mahoney's untimely death will not be in vain, as the government is more determined than ever to rid communities of those who seek to destabilize the nation and instill fear. He asserts that the killing of those who uphold the law and safeguard our society will not be condoned or tolerated, adding that the government stands with the Jamaica Constabulary Force and all law enforcement agencies as they continue their critical mission in the face of such adversity. The security minister is urging the public to work in unity with the police to foster a cooperative and respectful environment that upholds the safety and security of all citizens. Persons with information related to the murder of Sergeant Mahoney are being encouraged to come forward to ensure those responsible are caught. Dr. Chang extends deepest condolences to the family, friends, and Area 5 police colleagues of the fallen officer, saying no words can adequately comfort those affected by this loss, but he hopes that solace can be found in knowing that Sergeant Mahoney's service to the country will not be forgotten. And that's it for JIS News today. I'm Theodore Henry. Thanks for watching.
Every student attending Heart and STA Trust under the New Care Initiative will get $15,000 each month to help cover their travel expenses to the Heart School they're attending and get an extra $13,000 each week while they're training.
The proceeding was brought to you by the Office of the Prime Minister.
It's time for our update from the Office of the Prime Minister, where we highlight key events and developments from last week. Welcome to Jamaica House Weekly.
Of Troy will get their bridge in another 7 months.
That's the assurance given by the government as work commences on the Troy Bridge in Trelawney, which collapsed in 2021 during the passage of Tropical Storm Grace. Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness was in the parish last week for an update from the engineering team.
The bridge is designed using a 3-box culvert support structure. So in effect, the water will be going through the culverts with a paved invert, essentially. And using that design adds great reinforcement to the carrying surface of the bridge, which means that the bridge can carry significant weight. Though we are not saying that you should use overweighted vehicles on the bridge, but the bridge is designed to carry significant weight.
The 20-meter-long bridge is supported by piles that will be driven deep into the earth, retaining walls and gabion baskets. It will also have a sidewalk to support pedestrians. Dr. Holness says the government is committed to sound infrastructure development.
Whether it is your bridges, your roads, your drains and culverts, Jamaica must have world-class infrastructure. We're committing to that, and we're saying to the residents of the district here that even if your community is a rural community, you too deserve to have world-class infrastructure.
Another assurance given by the Prime Minister is to put in place a structured maintenance system.
We are now structuring our financial affairs in such a way that we can have routine maintenance done in a preventative way to ensure that you have not just the useful life of the bridge, but you are able to use the bridge and all the other infrastructure with greater convenience.
The Troy Bridge links several communities in Trelawney, Manchester, and St. Elizabeth, and the reconstruction will increase commercial activities and convenience. Construction will cost over $230 million from the national budget. Prime Minister Holness was also at the weekly post-cabinet press briefing where he updated the nation on the projected preliminary cost of damage from Tropical Storm Raphael.
We are not yet in a position to give definitive figures as to the damage assessment and what it will cost. Our figures are preliminary, but we expect them to be in the wide region of between $500 million to $1 billion.
The country experienced flooding, landslide, damage to road surfaces, and one major breakaway of a road in rural St. Andrew. As chairman of the National Disaster Risk Management Council, Dr. Holness assures that the country is in a better position to respond to natural disasters than in previous years.
We have a multi-layered disaster risk response mechanism, which we didn't have 5 years or so ago. Jamaica is at the stage where instead of borrowing to finance, what we do is we now set aside from the budget to be able to finance these things.
Dr. Holness says it is likely that the government will be able to fund the cost of the damage from Tropical Storm Raphael, adding that additional funding can be accessed if the amount reaches the threshold criteria under the Caribbean Catastrophe Risk Insurance Facility. Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness is lauding Don Webby for his sterling contribution to national service through the Senate. Mr. Webby resigned from the Senate effective November 7 to focus on health-related matters. In a release, Dr. Holness says he regrets the sudden departure, but thanks Mr. Webby for his contribution and wishes him a speedy recovery. According to the Prime Minister, Mr. Webby has been a steadfast advocate for the needs of the Jamaican people, bringing invaluable commercial and entrepreneurial insights into the legislative process. Throughout his tenure in the Senate, Dr. Holness says Mr. Webby has championed policies that reflect his commitment to shared prosperity, economic stability, and sustainable national development. Mr. Webby was appointed to the Senate in September 2007 and also served as Minister without Portfolio in the Ministry of Finance and the Public Service for 2 years. Prime Minister Holness was fielded with a number of questions from youth mayors representing the 14 parishes when they paid a courtesy call on him last Thursday. He lauded them on their passion to serve and encouraged them to continue.
I know some of you come here with differing perspectives, looking at things from, where you come from. It's your perspective. My job is to confront you with a different perspective, right? So you have perceptions. All right? A perception is what? Where you look from things from the position that you are. What is a perspective? A perspective is when you are able to move from where you are to look at the problem from a different position. All right? So I'm encouraging all of you to change from perception to perspective.
As the government continues to promote STEM education, Prime Minister Holness met with the winners of the World Robot Olympiad Jamaica. Dr. Holness welcomed the Robot Swan team from St. Hugh's Prep at Jamaica House last week. The team will be representing Jamaica at the World Robot Olympiad Global Competition in Turkey on November 28 to 30.
Show the world that Jamaica has not just good singers and musicians and cultural, but we have great scientists as well and people who are involved in technology and robotics. All right, you have my 100% support, and I'm there supporting you. All right, giving you all the energy you need to win.
And that's it for Jamaica House Weekly. Be sure to join us next time for more of the news stories coming out of the office of the Prime Minister.
Lowering the sodium content in children's diets today can help prevent heart disease later in their life, especially for those who are overweight. Shake the salt habit, shop smart and cook smart. Use less or no salt when cooking. Try using fresh herbs and seasonings to add more flavor. Limit the consumption of salty snacks. Take the time to carefully read the nutrition labels on food products to identify those high in salt and choose the healthier options. Remember, no more than 2 grams of salt per day from all food sources for children under 11 years of age.
Let's now take a closer look at the early years of the Overseas Examinations Commission. From its humble beginnings to its pivotal role in shaping education and assessments across the region, we explore how the Commission's foundation set the stage for academic excellence and access.
Tucked away among more famous neighbours, on a street that's named after one of London's busiest thoroughfares, stands an entity that's at the heart of Jamaica's secondary, tertiary and professional education. The name Overseas Examinations Commission may be synonymous with finalizing exams for secondary education. After all, the company started out by administering the GCE to 47 students in 1887. But the company offers so much more.
So for example, now we scan examination papers, and this is in collaboration with the Ministry of Education and an overseas body that will actually do the imaging and so on. We offer transcript services far and wide, and the OEC brand is known and respected and accepted in all major universities, and some of them that are not so major. As far as Australia, as far north as Northern Europe, we have provided those services. So that is another a major activity for us here. And of course now, the other support service that will help us to pay the people who work for us and to ensure that we have the kind of staff we need. And to underpin all of that is our IT department that provides now what has become critical. When we moved over here in 2008, we had a quasi-network. Now we are in the nerve of this organization is so far-reaching and so in-depth and so technical that the IT department has to come in for some mention.
We actually moved into this building in 2007. For decades, the Overseas Examinations Committee operated out of a board building on Piccadilly Road. Back then it was modern, but now we are getting to a space where we can make it even more modern and even more state-of-the-art, especially as examinations move into the digital space. Many of our students are now doing their exams online and so on. So we're transitioning now into this digital space. And so we're looking to upgrade our facilities and having the kind of environment that students can write their exams electronically, and we can have electronic transfer of data and the resolution of problems, and all of those issues can be handled electronically.
In the early years, it was O-level and advanced level. And all schools were doing these O-level and advanced level subjects. And University of London too, external exams. We had the LLB exams, which I think we still do now. The office still does. But as soon as CXC started to come on street, CXC started with English and maths first as trial subjects. And then gradually they, put in other subjects, and other subjects came on street until now. CXC has a whole slate of the exams that Cambridge used to do, but they are more Caribbean-based. Eventually, Cambridge and London got to understand just where we were going, and they were very cooperative. They understood. I can't forget when Cambridge sent somebody there, and all we had was typewriters, And he said, very soon you're going to see a computer on each desk. And I'm sure we have reached there now, where you have a computer on each desk. But we really are coming from a far, far way. The curriculum too, up to the time I left, was incorporating subjects like music and drama, which was not in the Cambridge slate of subjects that CXC was bringing in. And I'm sure by now they have brought in more. So the whole idea that CXC had of making examinations more Caribbean oriented, I think they succeeded.
Our tagline is IRE, integrity, reliability, innovation, and efficiency. That really has been our guiding principle. I mean, for any organization that has been able to exist and to continue to function well for the decades that we've been functioning, must be built on very sound moral and ethical principles. The administration of examination is a very serious business in any country, because this is where persons leaving the system must prove that they have acquired the skills and the credentials to be able to enter the world of work, university, colleges, and so on. So the preservation of the integrity of examination is a huge part of our mission. And I think we've done extremely well over the decades in preserving that legacy and preserving those ethical and moral principles to ensure that the qualifications that students have a really evidence of their own abilities and their own skill sets and their own intellectual development.
Attitude is something which productivity will require, and a good attitude. So these are conversations which are difficult. Because how do you instill a good attitude? It starts by the kinds of activities that you engage your children in at an early age. What are we teaching our children even in our own homes? How do they see us reacting to challenges? How do they hear us addressing issues? That's what's going to shape their attitude and their mindset.
I create crocheted toys, jewelry, and home decor. I do toys for all ages, from newborns to even adults. I do collector's items, which can be personalized or customized for retail and wholesale purposes. Moni's Voice started over 5 years ago. I was in a very dark place mentally. I had just gotten out of an abusive relationship. I was a new single mom, no job, nowhere to live. I was with family, and I needed something to get me out of that mental space. And so I decided to teach myself to crochet so I could make something for my daughter. Something just to get me out of that depressive state. And I ended up making a baby hat, a beanie. I did a crochet beanie. It took me a couple days to get one that could actually be worn. And when it was finished, she wore it to daycare. And the aunties and the other moms there loved it. And when I told them the story behind it, they started sharing their domestic violence experience. And when I shared it online, other people started sharing their experience with me. People started asking me to make things. I was brand new to crocheting. I went on YouTube and taught myself to make basically everything you see here. Taught myself to read crochet patterns and even taught myself to design new patterns. From then, the business has grown all on its own basically, and I have been growing with it. Not only has my crochet skills been growing, but my domestic advocacy and the mission behind Moni's Voice has been growing to the point where we're looking to collaborate with different local partners and communities to help other survivors and victims. So the name behind Moni's Voice, my middle name, a part of my middle name is Moni. That is what my abuser used to call me. It was his pet name for me. And my daughter ended up getting, a part of her name is also Moni. So me naming the business Moni's Voice, it's my way of taking a negative and turning it into a positive. So that negative connotation that I had of the name Moni, it's me using it to encourage someone else to say, hey, this has been my story. This is how I'm using it to raise my voice, to help you to raise your voice so we can end the stigma.
And that's it for today's edition of Jamaica Magazine. Remember, in the heart of every young person lies the potential for greatness. Do join us again tomorrow for another informative show. Remember to visit our website, gis.gov.jm, for more news you can use. On behalf of the entire team, I'm Adrian Atkinson. Stay safe.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.